Hello, friends. Welcome back to Seeking the Sacred Self. I'm your host, Naomi Rozak. Today, our episode is called Trusting Your Inner Knowing for the Future. I want this episode to be one of encouragement to you, one that recognizes and validates a sense you may be having and a path you are on, and tells you to keep going. Keep letting your inner essence speak to you and guide you. I wanted to call it Waiting for What You Can't See, which didn't feel clear enough, but that's what we'll talk about. How do you trust this thing inside of you that's telling you something about your life when you have no idea exactly what it is or when it's coming and what to do with this knowing sense meanwhile? What I want to talk about is one expression of your inner sacred self. It is this sense of knowing. Knowing is a knowledge that is somewhere inside you. It's different from what other people talk about and their knowing when they share about their lives. It's knowledge just for you. It's unique and personal, but may also feel confusing. Knowing often begins as intuition. This knowing is different from head knowledge. It's not a fact or something that we know to be true about the world around us. This is a deep in our gut, an embodied sense of knowing that comes from a place other than our head. It often begins as intuition, a tugging or pulling towards something, passionate about something. It shows up as feelings, a strong feeling of desire or want or fulfillment, or the opposites of these feelings where we don't want to, or something isn't for us, or we feel unfulfilled. So, my example of this is that when I was a teenager and was going to church, I would often watch people go up to the altar at the front of the church. The church I was in had a kind of a bunch of stairs leading up to the platform, and so people would kneel at the staircase and pray and pray and pray. And usually it's because something was going on in their lives that they couldn't figure out, and they really felt like they needed God to speak to them or take away whatever sinful desire within them. And I would watch them from my seat and had a burning desire to see them break through whatever was holding them back. And when I could, I would often go to the front and pray with them until there was that sense of something being settled, something is at ease, or the person was just ready to be done. At the same time, I had a sense of feeling very weighed down in my life. I was depressed, and everything I felt and thought was like a heavy backpack that I was dragging around with me all the time. And so part of this desire to see other people break through, I think, was partially influenced by my own need and desire to have a breakthrough for myself, to figure out what was holding me back, that so much of life felt like it was weighing me down. And then a few years passed, and I was in my 20s. I was a young mom, and another type of knowing came up in me repeatedly as motherhood, this life of being hidden in my house. It's too small for me. I am meant for more than this. I have a bigger, more expansive life waiting for me. It was a sense that I am meant for more than just this core 3 people around me in my house, but because that didn't match my religious beliefs, I discounted it and shamed and judged myself for it because I was taught that God and home and motherhood and wifehood should be fulfilling. They should be all I wanted. So I judged myself very harshly for not being fulfilled by those things. So I had those two things. I had the burning desire to see people move past what's holding them down, and the sense also I am meant for more than this. There's something more waiting for me. And eventually, with a bit more time, while still in the church, I began to know that I had a purpose in life that would somehow free people from pain, and that it was more than just the people I knew at that time, which was interesting and gave me a lot of hope and excitement and anticipation, but it was also very confusing. And so, what we often do when we have this knowing is we look at the life around us and we try to interpret what it means based on what we see at that time. So at that time, my husband and I were doing a specific kind of Christian counseling with people in our church. And we would both listen as people talked to us about things that they had never shared with anyone. And then my husband would do mostly the counseling and would show them patterns that he could see showing up in them and what was influencing them and help them to kind of grasp those mental and emotional pieces of it. And I would do the part of leading them in listening prayer, which is when they would ask God simple questions about things they were struggling with and receive inner prompts of mental images, words, song lyrics or scripture verses, memories, feelings, and more that would help them feel free. And I found particular fulfillment in helping to lead them in prayer, helping them form the questions to ask God, because for many of them, they had never engaged with God in this way, and they had no concept that God would care enough to interact with them over these painful experiences. So, helping people break through in this way from what was holding them back, I thought this is probably it. Maybe I'm meant to guide people in prayer. And remember, too, that the kind of church I was in, there were very limited opportunities for women to do anything more than what was in the house. You could teach Sunday school, you could be a musician for church services. Some women like wrote songs, some would arrange church get-togethers, but really the world of hospitality and mothering. So I thought this must be it. I will guide people in prayer, and this is how this part of me will be fulfilled. And then a lot of facts and information were coming to light about the foundations of our church. And before too long, my husband and I left the church. And at 30 years old, I had no certification or accreditation or training. And I no longer had a community or network and didn't feel people would trust me anyway. I basically knew nobody uh, that would be the recipient of this knowing and calling that I had inside. And I didn't feel people would trust me anyway without a degree. I felt unworthy, not good enough, because I'd essentially been in a kind of church that outsiders often looked down on because they think its members are stupid for not seeing how controlling the church is or how it's influencing their minds. And beyond that, I felt like I was broken on the ground. I had no identity. I was suffering. My trust in life and God and people was completely broken. And for a couple years, I barely functioned at all. And in many ways, I really didn't. So I want to acknowledge that this is what happens in life. We have a sense that something is meant for us, but what is happening around us and in our lives doesn't match what the inner knowing is. And that sense can be devastating. It can be hard to believe that life will ever get to a place where things feel better, or that we could have time or energy to think about ourselves and what we want and actually feel recovered enough and alive enough to pursue it. If this is where you find yourself, hold on, because at the end of the episode, I'm going to speak to you personally a little bit more. And for now, I want to go into why that knowing is there and what it can do for us, how it can guide us toward the things that we really want. So, your knowing is a part of that sacred essence of you. It's the most intrinsic knowledge. There are times we have different feelings and ideas and thoughts, but a knowing is something down in the core. It's inarguable. You can't get away from it, even if you push it down or try to ignore it. Other people probably know nothing about it. It's a part of you that is driving you, asking you to please do this or that, even if you don't know why. And it's a part of you that can often feel frustrated and crushed when it's really hoping something will work out and then life gets hard or overwhelming. And a part of you thinks, there goes that dream, or I'll never get to be what I want, even if you don't know what it is you want to be. But be aware that this inner knowing is meant for your encouragement, your anchor to come back to. It's your GPS to know which way to go, and your lighthouse that illuminates the path, sometimes over pretty choppy waters in front of you. Give yourself permission to hear what your tugging and intuition are saying and what your feelings are trying to tell you. This is your life. You're the only one who can hear you and feel and respond to that inner knowing. Nobody else really knows what's inside of you, so it's up to you. What do you want? And can you let yourself trust that knowing to start guiding you? Something you need to know is that there will be challenges on the way. If you have a trust about life, that things will work out, that life and the universe around you do want your best, then you can imagine you are always moving toward that best, the most fulfilled and aligned life. But it doesn't mean you access the fullness of that immediately. There are steps, there are experiences and relationships and perspective shifts. Back before I left the church, when I had that big inner knowing that there's something more and bigger for you to help people move through their pain, I thought it was within the walls of my church or the system of churches that we were connected to. I could not see down the road, but I just anticipated this is where this purpose will reach. This is how far it will go. And in a matter of only a few months, all of that came crashing to the ground. And then I had years of suffering and trying to figure out how to even get up for the day and how to put one foot in front of the other. So just know there are going to be hard times and challenges, but these bring the very important transformative moments that you need to show up for life or for your purpose, the one that your knowing is guiding you toward. There will be pivots when your knowing led you one way and then you discover you're now being led in a different direction. That can be confusing. So it's important to know that sometimes the experience and perspective you gain out of that thing are the treasures that you get to take away. The universe is not interested in you just feeling good and unchallenged or dumping some easy pathway in your lap. It wants you to have everything your heart is taking you toward. But that means a journey of becoming the person who creates that thing for themselves and can handle all of the joy and all of the challenge and responsibility of it. That is going to take time. Becoming that person takes time and you're going to learn stuff. But if you're in touch with that spark inside of you, that sacred self, you'll be able to tuck those lessons one by one into your backpack of lived experience, and they will fortify and guide you, and maybe even others, for the rest of your life. And if that feels challenging to accept, know that this is only step by step, one step at a time. You're just meeting life as it comes. But you have the choice to bow out and take the unengaged path, the path of least resistance, and you can feel a little dull and dead inside to know that your good future might never come. Or you can let your inner knowing guide you on a path of wild and unexpected adventure where you might get hurt and be confused and have to shift and grow and heal. But you will probably never be bored and you will feel alive, like you're doing something worthwhile. You can look back at who you were, sometimes even weeks or months ago, and see how much you've grown, and that's so rewarding. This inner knowing is there to carry you through the times when life is not working out, when you can't tell where you're going, when life doesn't feel smooth, when you are deeply learning and deeply feeling all the challenges. If I hadn't had that knowing, hadn't had some inner images and dreams and things that went with it, things that told me a little more about the size and shape and feel of what I want for my future, if I didn't have that dissatisfaction paired with desire that told me something better was ahead, I don't know how much I would have been willing to go through some of those very tough times in between. This inner knowing is a little bit like the human drive and instinct for survival, except that the inner knowing is the drive to make your dreams come true, your inner self shine and find everything that it wants. I have signed up for this self-awareness journey and this personal growth journey because of that sense of knowing and how that as I align with what it tells me, I will feel good and I will be stepping into exactly what I want, even if it's undefined yet. One more important thing to know is that your inner knowing will expand over time. It will take more shape. It will start to color in the details for you. I know so much more about what is meant for me and in my future now than I did 10 or 15 years ago when there were just vague feelings. My gosh, if I had known, I probably would have shifted and changed and trusted it so much sooner. But that's okay because I could only see and sense so much at that time. And I feel that it's all come in the timing it was supposed to be in. That's why you have to trust what it looks like and how it feels in its beginning stages, that vague feeling or dissatisfaction or lack of fulfillment or whatever. As you respond to it, as you trust it and follow it, it can start to give you more knowing, more details. And as you learn more about the feel of it and what it will look like and how it will fit, you get more and more excited. Momentum starts to pick up. You start to really believe in it. Pieces fall in place faster because you know what's coming and now you can feel it and you get in line with it so much easier. What also starts to happen is that you become okay with where you are on the path. You don't need this wonderful future alignment to come immediately because even the steps on the way there will start to feel better and more uplifting. I had many steps on my path, lots of reflection. I learned and practiced yoga for years. I was in university for a year and a half. I read so many books, pulled in so many thoughts to inform my mind and my spiritual practices. I learned so many good things, including emotional understanding and some psychology and so much more. And then when I moved away from university, it felt like things sped up a little bit on my path. Next, I did my Reiki energy healing training, and then soon after, the mind body healing mentorship program, and began to see clients for both. And I didn't know if those would be my last steps. Like, bang, I found the thing that I was looking for. I found the fulfilling path. Like, is this the outer structure for what my inner knowing has told me? But I knew it was a significant part. My inner knowing was telling me that much. And I knew that they were incredibly fulfilling. And if I did that even only for a while, I'd be very happy. I'd also been learning for so many years and really needed a break to just practice some of that knowledge. So that is very much the journey of following that inner knowing, that you will take a step and you stay there for a while and you let the feedback come back to you in your feelings and your reflection. And then for a time, you'll probably feel a lot of satisfaction or the sense that, ooh, I've really found something on this pathway, something I was looking for. And then a little spark of interest will tug you into just one more little thing, one more step. For me, the next thing that came was realizing how much something in me wanted to express itself through words. And I began to write a lot. And this was in the pandemic when I had a lot more time at home. And then I found an online writing community. And that fulfilled more of me to the point where I built up from just doing some blog posts and, a few articles and writing for my own pleasure to the point where I wrote a whole book, which, by the way, is not published yet, something I hope to move on sometime this year. And then there has come a point where I have so much inside of me to express that I need to speak, as I'm doing on this episode now. I continue to write even when I'm planning out episodes, and I continue to work with clients because all of these things are expressive of that knowing inside of me. They come together to create a picture of meeting my needs and helping me to grow and learn and to fulfill what's inside of me. But does that mean I've arrived? Does it mean my path is over? Does it mean my knowing has said to me, this is it, you found it all? No, this is a resting place. This is a step on my journey. And I don't know the exact shape of the future. I'll share that I do have a sense that there will be one thing, one offering that supremely fits, that I'm completely meant for. But the clarity hasn't come to me in its fullness yet. I'm just taking steps on the path. And as I take the steps, more little bits of knowing and excitement and anticipation drop in. But these steps feel so good. And if the steps on the way to getting there feel this good, how good will that next iteration be? That next thing that's coming? And meanwhile, I get to be playful and curious and know more and engage with all the things I'm doing now. I am gaining experience and I'm having so much fun so that it feels like I don't even care what's coming. I mean, I do care. It's just that the path now is feeling so aligned that I can wait for whenever the next little turn in the path comes. I can just let the changes come when it's time and know that my heart will pull me in the direction that's meant for me. It's just about letting more and more alignment come as it wants to, and as I'm ready, and as things fall into place. So while we're talking about the many steps on the path, know that you can also trust your knowing to help you choose what to do at each step. because when you weigh your complete fulfillment against any opportunity that comes across your path, your heart or knowing will tell you when something is right for you. In episode 11 last week, I shared about how to know when the heart is speaking versus our thinking mind. And this is where it's good to remind ourselves that the heart voice won't always make rational sense, but it will point you to what will be satisfying to you and what won't, even when the choice seems irresponsible. The path of inner knowing and ultimately fulfillment will often go against what people say is right for you to do or what your mind says you should choose. But know that you can trust that knowing. It is for your ultimate best, for your growth, and for your fulfillment. So it might mean saying no to opportunities that from the outside look really good, financially rewarding, or good for your career or whatever, and saying yes to something that sounds ridiculous or way too irresponsible, or where you can't obviously see the concrete benefit, but it feels amazing to that knowing and to your heart. I'm going to take a break here to ask you to take a moment and think about what is something you know or feel deep down about your life? What is bringing up passion in you? What is feeling not good? And your inner self is asking you to pay attention to that unsatisfied place. Do you let that thing bubble up in you sometimes? Do you speak it or let the words come out in a journal or art? Do you trust that thing? Do you believe it might actually have something to tell you about your life and your future? What is your inner self trying to say to you today? I want to give you the encouragement that no matter where you are right now, no matter how dark it feels, no matter how much you feel you are at the beginning, or you are even behind the starting line, or down in a hole while others are flying high in the sky of fulfillment, whatever your inner knowing is telling you, even if it's only a few uncomfortable feelings of, I want more than this, or I'm not happy here, that is your signal that you are meant for more than this. And if you set your sights on that North Star and let it pull you along, you will, over time, come to rest in a place that is soothing and peaceful and full of life and abundant for you. It will take time. It will contain some challenges. But if you start to listen to that inner knowing and connect more and more to what is inside of you, instead of all the influences and voices and pressures of the outside, you will navigate yourself right into your own precious, sacred life, and you will find your fulfillment. Let go of the shore. Let go of your safety and that place where you just have some feelings down inside that you don't want to get to know. Get into the boat on the river of life. Engage with that feeling inside of you and let it take you to exactly what you want the most, even when you can't put it into words. You won't believe what is waiting for you, the goodness and joy and connection and fulfillment. Trust your knowing and let it guide you where you want to go until you can see all around you what you already knew deep inside. Thank you for listening to this episode. If something in it has resonated with you, take some time to share it with a friend or to like and subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss an episode every week. And I'll meet you back here next time when we go a little deeper again.